Welcome to Transformational Pathways, a podcast created by Toastmasters District 46 in the greater New York area, where we share conversations from influencers within the Toastmasters community and people whose lives have positively transformed by walking down the Toastmasters path. Whether you're just getting started in your career, have had recent career changes, or you're navigating different languages, we're here to help you build confidence by discovering new tools, overcoming your fears to find your voice, and engaging in a thriving community. Enjoy today's episode.
Hello! Welcome to another episode of Toastmasters District 46 Transformational Pathways podcast. I'm your host, Scott Mason, and walking the pathway with me today is our guest, Jasmin Pemberton. Jasmin is a private elementary school tutor who works with students throughout Bronx and Westchester County. Jasmin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm glad to be here.
I am glad to have you too. Jasmin, a private tutor. I understand what private tutors do, but talk to us a little bit about exactly who these elementary school students are and how you got into that.
Okay. So I was working with adults in human resources, and that was very educational. It was very cool, but I was feeling like it was time for me to move into something else. And one of my coworkers had a first grader who was having trouble reading. And she was like, Jasmin, I'm doing everything I can. I just don't have the patience to sit with her and push her through this process. And I get frustrated and she gets frustrated and I don't know what to do. She's like, I think that you have the patience to help her through this process. And I was like, oh, I would love to. That's like the most fun thing, learning to read for the first time. And so we got together and we got to do some after school tutoring, and it was really awesome because I got to engage a beginner reader and see her develop her love of reading. And so I had to be strategic and gain new tactics to get her to get on board with doing work, but in a way that seemed not so much like work. So that was a cool experience, and that kind of blossomed.
Wow. I love it. So you were in HR for a while. We're going to talk about that experience in a little bit more depth. But let me just ask you, I assume you didn't just float down from the sky and end up working for HR somewhere. Where are you from, Jasmin? Are you a born and raised New Yorker?
I am a born and raised New Yorker, and my mom laughs because I keep telling people that I was born and raised in the Bronx, but that's not true. It just sounds good. I was born in Harlem, and then very early on, we moved to the Bronx, and so I've been in the Bronx for most of my life. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, I am always glad when we've got someone from the boogie down here on the show. And for those of you who are not from New York City and listening, the boogie down, hey, that's another name for the Bronx, because that's where you go if you want to have a good time, and the good time people are in the Bronx. I say that as someone who used to live there, but you really do live there.
Nice. I didn't know that you were formerly a Bronxite. That's cool.
So, yeah, definitely. I worked in the South Bronx by the Yankee Stadium, and I lived up just south of Van Cortlandt Park. That's some real Bronx.
Yes, it certainly is. Nice.
So, leaving aside origins, how did you end up working in HR?
Good question. So I guess I've been bouncing between working with kids, working with grown-ups, working with kids. So I was working in a daycare. I left that thinking, okay, let me do something I've never done before. And I ended up interning at a small messenger delivery service on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And after a short internship, I was promoted and I got to be a full-time employee. And I was working with some experienced HR people. And directly, since it was a pretty small company, I got to work directly with the VP, who was super cool, super knowledgeable, and I was able to just take away so many skills, so many key things that I've been able to apply to what I'm doing now, to just regular life, just from working in that company. So it was cool. It was like 7-ish years of HR stuff.
Wow. working in HR for 7 years, I bet gives you a unique perspective on the value of Toastmasters. And I see you smiling even as I say that. Talk to me a little bit about what you saw when you were in HR that might relate to the value that Toastmasters could bring to people who are in the workforce, whether they are at the beginning of their career, the middle, or on the way out.
Toastmasters is valuable for so many reasons. One of the things that I value most about Toastmasters is their evaluative experience. The strategies that they recommend for evaluation I found to be so useful in so many areas, and especially in HR, because there were many situations where I had to have uncomfortable or less than favorable conversations with people if there were policies that weren't being followed, or if anything disciplinary had to be discussed. And those are uncomfortable. It'd be fun if you could just always be like, hey, you're doing a great job. Everything's working great. Just wanted to say hi, go out and enjoy the rest of your day. But some conversations were not like that. And I felt equipped to tell them good things that they were doing, to encourage them at the end of a hard conversation so that it wasn't all A, B, and C is what's expected, and you did D, E, F, and that's not cool. It was more like, you're doing A, which is wonderful. You need to work on B. That's very important. Let's get it together, and we're a team. And so it was a more comprehensive evaluation that highlighted what people were doing well and stuck to the root of making sure I was saying what also needed to be done. And Toastmasters really helped me develop that skill.
And we're going to talk about your Toastmasters origin story in a few minutes. But I wanted to actually delve a little bit more deeply into a point that you just made, and that is the evaluation process that Toastmasters embeds literally in every step of its program. For those who are listening or watching who may be considering Toastmasters but might not have joined yet, one thing that you should know is that everyone is required at one point or another to both be evaluated and to evaluate. As a supervisor, I have faced many times in my career when I had employees that refused to accept or to hear criticism, even if it's constructive. And you learn to take it in Toastmasters. Evaluation isn't debate time, number one. And then number two, you do have to learn how to give it. Jasmin, when I was in one of my very, very earliest supervisory positions, I'll never forget someone came to me with some work that was really horrible. It was substandard. And I barked at him. I basically didn't use any sort of sandwich method like we use in Toastmasters. I didn't focus on anything. I just, went for, and it was really immaturity on my part. There's no other justification or explanation for it, and lack of a skill set. I just went for the jugular and made it clear I was unhappy with it, and he better come back with something better next time. Not cool. Don't emulate that. It ain't attractive. It's not helpful. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts about the impact of evaluation on employees, managers, and being a leader that you saw within the HR context.
Yeah, well said. I think, so I'll tie this in a little bit to the Toastmasters experience. It is hard to receive feedback, even when it's constructive and it's given with kindness and good intent. It's hard to be the listener when someone's telling you potentially what you're doing wrong or what doesn't work, when what you want is to have everything work about you and be perfect in every way. We want to display that, but it's not the reality. But it's still hard to hear. So what I love about Toastmasters is you're coming into an environment that already starts off saying, we support you. We're here to help you. We're not here to hurt you. And so when we're giving you this evaluative feedback, it's not to be harmful or judgmental. It's so that you can reach your goal of improving. So in the same way, in HR, I found that it was easiest to have those kinds of conversations when people knew that it was coming from a supportive and kind and a place of good intent, so they didn't have to feel so defensive, even though it's hard not to feel defensive anyway because you want to do a good job. Someone's evaluating the work you're doing. But if you know it's coming from someone who's rooting for you, just like you're rooting for yourself, that's a better position to be in when you're hearing that kind of feedback. So overall, learning to communicate with kindness and to be a good listener, which Toastmasters helps us do, is helpful across the board in every field, because then you feel like you're talking to somebody who wants you to do well too. You're hearing from somebody who wants you to do well too. So it gives a better foundation.
You mentioned, thank you so much. Jasmin, you mentioned that it helps make you a better listener. How is that possible? Toastmasters is about helping people talk. Am I correct?
You are right.
I can't even say it with a straight face. Anyway, answer that question.
Yeah, we do so much talking in Toastmasters, but we also do so much making room for other people to talk to and for listening. So just like you said, how everyone is required to at some point serve as an evaluator, that is a really tricky skill, especially the first time that you do it, because you realize, oh, I've been listening this whole time, but now that I have to give feedback, my level of listening is intensified because I know that I have to say something constructive that aligns with the message that you gave. So it boosts the intensity of our listening and makes us more strategic in our hearing and what we take down so that we can give useful feedback. In addition, things like the general evaluation, which sometimes gets to help the impromptu speakers know how well they did. So you could be coming as a first-time guest, participating in table topics, and then a general evaluator lets you know the impact that you made as a first-time speaker. So it's really cool. Yeah, listening and speaking in Toastmasters.
Talk to us a little bit about impromptu speaking. How was it for you the first time you were called up to do table topics, which is the impromptu speaking portion of every Toastmasters meeting? And for those who are listening and who might be considering joining, Jasmin's going to make sure that you're not scared of that. There's no reason to be scared. So talk to us a little bit about that, Jasmin. Give us the comfort that we need. I'm trembling even remembering my first table topic.
Yeah. It can seem scary, but once you're in it, it's mostly fun. One of my Toastmasters friends, Kendall, or my friend who is also a part of Toastmasters, she used to strategically slip out of meetings during the table topics portion and return after so that she could listen to the speeches. So whenever I was in front, I would wait so that I could call on her. So I had to out strategize her so that she could. And she is an amazing speaker, and I could see her develop each time that we got to be together in the club. So, but that's just someone who was trying to get out of it. But what's really helpful about Toastmasters, for me, the harder part of speaking in Toastmasters is the preparation. People put so much awesome preparation into their speeches, their speeches based on the Pathways program. So much goes into getting those 5 to 7 minute or longer speeches out. But the cool thing about impromptu speaking is you're just relying on whatever's on the inside of you. So you can tie it into what you experienced that day. You can tie it into what you experienced in the past. And it's a little less pressure, in my opinion. It's mostly fun because how can you get it wrong? You can't get it wrong. It's just coming from you.
Yeah.
So it's good stuff. It's a good time. But it really does teach you about timing also. A minute never seemed so long as the first time that you do a table topics expansion.
It's true, but it is also embedded in what you just said, a reality that you learn how to fill it up. And that's an incredible skill to have. I don't know how you feel, but after I did table topics for a while, ever since then, I've never been tongue-tied. I always, for instance, if someone asks me a question and I don't have anything to say after all these years of table topics practice, I'm actually quite good at just standing up there and saying anything. And it somehow sounds okay.
Nice. Yeah. I agree.
Jasmin, how did you come to be a Toastmaster?
I am now part of a Toastmasters family. Of the 5 of us in my immediate family, 4 of us are Toastmasters.
Wow.
But the first person, the pioneer, was my mom, who went and pulled my dad in and then pulled me in and pulled my sister in. So we have one sister that's holding out, but the rest of us we're in Toastmasters.
What is it like to have a Toastmasters family? I've not encountered that yet. I want to hear everything. That's incredible.
It's a lot of fun, and it's funny to go somewhere where a member of your family is already well known and people get to know you for a while, but they don't realize the connection until maybe a day when you both do speeches, and then they're like, wait, you both have the same last name. Are you related? You're like, this is my mom. That's my mom. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. It's good examples.
Well, let's go back a little bit. Do you know why your mom joined in the first place? Is there a little bit of a backstory there that you're aware of?
I think that when she first heard of Toastmasters, possibly from one of her sisters in Aruba, she heard that Toastmasters allows you to travel. And my mom loves traveling. So even before she understood about communication and leadership skills, she was like, oh, Toastmasters, travel, sounds good. And so she signed up and then loved the experience and called us to experience it too.
It's phenomenal. How did your mom get you to join then? What's the story there?
I was invited to a meeting at Toast of the Bronx, which is still my home club after, I think, 8 years now. And I got to participate. I'm sure I did table topics. Although, I do remember I did table topics. And I think, no, I thought I remembered the question, but I don't. But I loved the feeling of it, of the supportive audience, the applause, of people getting up and speaking. It seems magical when you don't know anything about Toastmasters. You're just like, who are all these people who know how to like stand up and talk in front of other people? Like, what? You don't know anything about the curriculum or the past. You're just like, you guys are all really good. Like, how'd that happen? And you realize, I could join this program. I could do it too. Yeah. So I was impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about some of the changes that you have gone through having been a Toastmaster for a while now.
I would say that it makes me more likely to say yes to things than I was before. I'm the kind of person I like to learn from others, and in a room full of smart people, I would rather be the person seated learning from the smart people doing cool things around me. And so I was most likely to be like, thanks for the offer, but so-and-so here can do it because so-and-so can whatever. And this guy's a leader, that gal's and I just, point to the smart people in the room. But Toastmasters has helped me increase my confidence in my competence. And so I'm able to say yes. If someone says, here's an opportunity that I think fits you, I'm less likely now to brush it off. I'll say, okay, I will give it a try. Yeah.
I love it. Jasmin, you are a member of one of Toastmasters' specialty clubs. Is that not correct?
That is correct. Podcast Pioneers.
Tell, what is it? Podcast Pioneers. So are you telling me that Toastmasters has a podcasting club? Are you all trying to put me out of business?
Listen. No, you inspired. You inspired. To do what you do. It's a really cool club. It's a way for beginners, people who are experienced, to come together and practice and enhance their podcasting skills. And we're able to learn from the greats in the game, one of which I'm speaking to now, and so many people who have podcasting experience graciously share their experience with the group, and we're able to practice.
And what made you decide to join that?
This virtual season of being away from people but still wanting to connect has opened up so many like virtual doors, and it has made me see how tangible, for lack of a better term, I don't know, it helps me feel connected to listen to people that I want to hear speak, and podcasts are one way that people do that. So I want to learn more because it's just been a cool platform and way to get your voice out there and message out there to people.
Are you going to host a podcast one day?
I would love to. It's one of those things. Yes, I'm working on it. I'm actually on one of the projects in Pathways where I'm meant to.
I think you'll be great at it, by the way.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you. I have some ideas, but we have to, get those ideas out and do them.
I love it. If you have advice for someone your age, particularly someone who is in business for themselves, like you, who might be considering joining Toastmasters but can't decide, what would that advice be?
I would say the Toastmasters curriculum is really awesome, and you can work it. Whatever it is that your goals are, you can apply it to what you're doing in Toastmasters and enhance your own thing. It's very moldable. You can just shape it to whatever it is you're doing. So when you're doing your icebreaker, you can align that with you. How do I introduce myself to my potential clients? When you're doing your research and presenting, it could be tied right in to your professional field. Any of the projects, you can just line it up to what you're doing, and you get, again, one of the things, the most critical things is the feedback, because you get to hear from people who are hearing you in real time. Tell you how impactful you've been. Did you think that you've communicated this message? Well, they'll let you know, I got this from it. I didn't quite get that, but I got this. And now you know how to shift and rework it so it's as effective as you want it to be.
Right. That's actually really good for people to know, because the age and stage a lot of folks are in their career when they are at approximately where you are in life, they're wanting to elevate or escalate. They are beginning to have a series of achievements under their belt, and they want to make it to the next level. Am I correct in hearing that you feel that Toastmasters can help provide you with some of the skills needed to have that happen?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Before we close out, I'm going to ask you a couple of pop-up questions. Take your time and answer in whatever way you see fit. As Toastmasters, we learn how to lead, we learn how to speak. Name one speaker and one leader who you really admire, and what is it that makes them special?
One speaker and one leader I really admire. Is this anybody? These are just, do they need to be
It
well-known?
could be anybody.
Okay.
They don't need to be Toastmasters. They could be anybody.
Okay, cool. I am going to say there is a Toastmaster who got to be someone that I know because of this virtual season, because she's a California Toastmaster, and I would not have met her if not for these virtual our ability to join each other's clubs virtually. So her name is Muriel Shabazz.
Yeah.
And she is wonderful. When she speaks, she speaks about our nation's history with injustice against Black people, but she does it in such a way that's so clear and precise. It's a complicated subject. It can be extremely heavy and hard to listen to, especially depending on, it can be really emotional, sometimes inflammatory, but I don't know how she masterfully does it, but she masterfully does it, and she just finds a way to present it in a way where here's the information, here's the evidence, and here's the background, but in a way that's just sensitive and clear. Just truth, sensitive, clear. Yeah, which I think makes it palatable for people, not just people who have experienced it, but people who are maybe hearing about it for the first time or are new to the subject. So I think I admire people who can skillfully discuss hard topics. So she is both, I guess, a speaker and a leader that I admire.
Well, I'm going to make sure I give her a shout out when we do the write-ups for this episode, and that way more people can find out about her. That is quite an endorsement. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to know that you were saying good about her. Jasmin, it has been great having you on the show today. Thank you for joining us and for sharing your story. Now, for those of you who are listening or watching, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review or a comment. Also, don't forget to follow District 46 on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you're new to Toastmasters, check out Toastmasters46.org. That's Toastmasters46.org. You'll learn more about us there, and you'll be able to visit one of our clubs through that site too. Toastmasters is where leaders are made. Just like you, Jasmin.
Just like you, Scott.
Thank you so much for joining us on Transformational Pathways. If you enjoyed today's episode or got anything out of it, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're interested in learning more about Toastmasters District 46, check out the link in the show notes below.